To be consistent when he recognizes multiple identity. So now he wants to label me as a Chawe and keep me as a Chawe forever and ever. I'm happy to be a Chawe as long as I can be other things as well. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, Marius, for organizing this. I think for me, I've been listening very carefully, and it's been quite enriching, and it tells you a lot of things that you kind of already know, but they need to be expressed. And it's a lot about identity. Who are we? What are our concerns? How do we most effectively address those concerns? For me, I was also reflecting in response to your question, why vote for the ANC? I was just reminiscing and thinking about, well, why did I join the ANC in the first place? Coming from a privileged group in South Africa. Well, it's for those that were fortunate enough, I suppose, to have the kind of influences around us to be able to recognize injustice where injustice stared you in the face. I think I was fortunate enough to have been there. But the question is, why join the ANC at the time? And joining the ANC at the time, rather than just lodging one's protest against injustice, was a result of very careful examination of a whole host of policy statements of the African National Congress. Then, I'm talking about when I was in my early 20s. I've sort of grown up in the ANC, if you like. All of my adult years have been in the ANC. But at that point, where we just say, well, what do we do? How do we stand up against what is wrong? And who do we fight? Who do we align ourselves with in this fight? And there was no other party that could even be considered. Because what was this fight for? What was it about and what was its vision? Yes, we have a national development plan now with a 2030 a vision for 2030, a long-term vision of where we want to take the country to. But there's a much more profound vision which underlies that, about what kind of society, which has been articulated consistently by the ANC and has defined the character of the ANC for a very long time, and that is the non-racial, non-sexist character of the ANC. And that became abundantly clear to myself and a number of other people who were wondering, now what do we do? Where do we fit in with? How do we make our contribution towards change in our country that we also, soos jy in die Weskaap en die Noordweskus is the 5 years, that we can say that this is our country where we can live with our consciences and we can feel proud of our country and we can say this is a country where justice prevails. And go right back to the early policy statements of the ANC in the Freedom Charter. I know that I very carefully read Nelson Mandela's statement from the dock and say, what vision was he expressing and articulating for South Africa? I read Brown Fisher's statement from the dock. These were statements that had a profound effect on many of us. And that for me defined the character of the African National Congress and the vision that it was spelling out for our country. And we are still there. We can deal with these very real problems, Peter, about crime in the Western Cape and gangsterism and drugs and all. These are very real issues. But at the end of the day, we've got to be driven by a longer-term vision. And that is, how do we create jointly a non-racial, democratic, non-sexist South Africa where everybody can enjoy the fruits of democracy, prosperity, etc., where race no longer matters. I can get you quotes from Oliver Tambo where he says that our vision is not to be defined by race. But we have realities of race in our country. Realities of racial discrimination, realities of racial classification. I agree with Peter that identity is quite a complex thing. We discussed it earlier on with our friends from the Griqua community. And it is a very personal thing. At the end of the day, though we should be, although we, you have your space, and if the person who says, I am a colored person, respect that. And respect that right to articulate it and to announce it and to be proud of it. And if I say I'm a white Afrikaner, which I'm not really, but if I want to identify myself, I'm a Chawe. But if that's how I define myself, if I define myself as, you've heard the word Sequoia and you've heard the word San, but you go to the Kalahari and you go to David Klepper, He doesn't use those words. He said, "Oh, see Busmans." That's the way they identify themselves. They're respected. So if we can just together sort of, unite ourselves in that respect for our diversity, see it as a strength, but see in it also a complexity. It's not an easy thing to deal with. And I think that's, I think that today I would like to believe is much more than saying, why should I vote for the ANC? But today I believe is, how can I contribute towards the achievement of that greater vision, that greater commitment? How do we work together, knowing that we come from different backgrounds? Some of us are Muslim, some of us are Jewish, but in bringing our forces together, I would also say, let's not alienate anybody. Let's recognize that there are huge sensitivities in our complex South African tapestry, in our complex South African landscape. So as we move towards the realization of that greater goal, let's do it in such a way that whether you call yourself Klopse or minstrels or coons, it doesn't matter. But the event is profoundly important to thousands of Cape Townians. I grew up here in the hills of Cape Town. Here is in Tamboerskloof. Very, very separate from Trevor Manuel, who lived not far away from me, but our lives didn't meet. But for me, part of the tradition of Cape Town is that Klopse.
Of course.
And I once went, after I wandered around the world and came back to South Africa, and I was trying to speak the politically correct language, and I stood here in Wales Street, when the Klopse came along Atterley Street and up Wales Street, and I was so excited being back in my country, and I asked somebody, I said, I didn't know what to say, where are the coons coming? Because I knew that wasn't the politically correct word. I said, I didn't know what word. I said, when is the next troop coming? I said, excuse me. Oh, you mean the coons? People will describe themselves in different ways, and we mustn't be undermining of that. But we must know what makes people proud, and we must build on that. And I think we can turn things around in the Western Cape. I think, my dear comrade there, am I proud of being an ANC member? The answer is yes. Am I proud of everything the ANC does today? The answer is no. But we must jointly, we must fix some of these things that are right. But at the end of the day, our bigger project is to fix this country. Yeah. Make it a country where everybody can live with pride and lead a better quality of life. Thank you.